Welcome to the How to Find and Keep a Gay Man podcast. I'm Matt Bays, your host, with Matt Heinker, your co-host. And we're here to provide bitchy wisdom for the gay man looking for love. There are a lot of gay men out there looking for a meaningful love experience, and we are here to help. You can follow How to Find and Keep a Gay Man on Instagram and TikTok, where you'll find all sorts of bitchy wisdom about what it's going to take to find and keep a gay man. Welcome. We're glad you're here. You are bringing father figure with that necklace.
I'll be your father figure.
Put your tiny hand in mine.
Woo! Love me some George Michael.
The sun's out, guns out.
Got my tats out, baby. They think I'm such a nice lady, but I've been in these streets, honey. Look at these tats, okay?
You fit in the streets of Carmel. Like Malibu's Most Wanted.
I am, actually. I'm keeping my honeymoon going here with some more Mexican Topo Chico sparkling water.
Oh, yes.
That's what we drank poolside all week. Good to see you, darling. How you been?
Listen, here's the truth. I'm sick as a dog right now. And on top of being sick, I pulled some muscle in my back. It hurts to breathe.
Well, I called you yesterday on a Sunday afternoon. You were doing diamond push-ups in the gym. I thought, my word, we're doing the most right now.
And I didn't feel great, but I was like, I can handle this. You know, we come from a family where it's like, if something's wrong, you just rub dirt in it. Didn't work out so well.
We'll be gentle.
So you've been on your vacation all week celebrating your nuptials.
Oh, my word. And celebrate we did, honey. Gorgeous beaches and sunshine and love. It was everything. It was great. We had a wonderful time. I was married now, as you say.
I said I was married now.
It feels so good. It's funny. We were talking about this when we were on the trip. Like, we've traveled quite a bit in the last 3 years, him and I together.
Yeah.
But it felt way different to be on this trip as a married couple.
Now tell me about that, because you said that to me on the phone yesterday, and I thought, I wonder what that means.
I think that, we've been committed to each other for a long time, but I just think there's this like general sense of like, wow, we're like much more grounded now. We're permanent. We're hubbies, and we're wearing rings, and it was really nice.
And the bloom is not off the rose yet. I know it's only been 164 hours, but
so far so good.
Good. I knew somebody who once came home from their honeymoon and said, I think I might have made a mistake.
No.
Swear to God.
Dear God. Who knows? Get a therapist.
Yeah. Get a damn therapist. So I think it's serendipitous that you and Ty went off to this gay resort in Puerto Vallarta. Where so many Puerto Vallarta. Welcome to Fantasy Island. And or it could be Destruction Island.
It's a little mix of the two. Yeah, for sure.
But right after our episode on open relationships, and I'm sure you're engaging numerous people that are already in open relationships and exploring that world or fully invested in it or whatever.
We did all that research and we did that full-blown podcast on open relationships. And my views on it are much more solidified even after this trip. So it's interesting. We're at this luxury LGBTQ plus resort in Paradise. And everywhere you look are gays from all over the world. And we met a lot of different couples. We connected with a lot of people. And every single couple we met all week, except for one, was open. So I think that those numbers are skewed a little bit because we, in our research, we found that older gays are definitely more than the younger, open to open relationships and participate in them. But people would meet us and find out we were not open and be like, whoa, But the other part of it that I realized is that the majority of the couples that we engaged with for any length of time, there was one person that was really for it. And there's one person that was clearly maybe not quite on the same page, maybe not full-blown uncomfortable, but, probably not as excited about it as the other. And we found, we met many people, one couple in particular that stands out. We had dinner with one night from San Francisco. They were talking about how they've been open for 5 years and the hubs went to the bathroom and his husband said, you know what, I would be perfectly happy with just him and only him. I'm in love with him, but that's just something he's never going to want. So I just have to deal with this. And he was kind of emotional. Again, person doesn't know us that well. But he's like, congratulations that you two love each other and you're connected enough that you want this. It's beautiful. I don't see it very often.
And committed to walking this out and living this out, regardless of if there comes a time where the sex gets boring, mundane, monotonous, of figuring out how to ramp it back up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we even talked about that. We said, we're at our honeymoon right now. It's probably pretty easy. We've been together for 3 years, but, we're still very connected. If we ever reach a point where we're not, we're going to work on that. And the poor boy left. They left for dinner and his husband was tired to go back to the hotel room and he went to the bathhouse. So we just saw that repeated over and over again. Mm. And I also think that one other thing that we really took away from this is I think that most of these couples are desensitizing themselves to how special the sexual intimacy is with your partner. Mm-hmm. You have sex with all kinds of people in a bathhouse and it's dark and Lord knows who you're touching. Sex becomes just a recreational thing. And it's not this really sacred connection with someone that you love. So you're desensitizing yourself to how special and how amazing it can be. And again, super countercultural idea, but we saw it in real time. And I was so thankful that I was there with my beloved husband. Yeah. And no one's going to touch him but me.
We've talked about this a lot, Matt. You're going to get to a point in any relationship. You guys have already been together for 3 years. At some point, you're going to be tired of seeing that same old ding-a-ling. So I'm like, at that point, figure out what you need to do, dress it up like a finger puppet. I don't care. Do something to get some fire back into it.
Absolutely.
Because the truth is, even in open relationships, you're going to get used to a consistency of seeing the same thing over and over and over, doing the same thing over and over and over. So as we've discussed and we continue to hold to, it's not a solution for monotony. It is not a solution for a messed up relationship. It's just not.
No.
You cannot fix an internal problem with an external solution. We've said it over and over. So if there is a problem, I have to be the solution because I'm the problem. That's where I have to start. So if I'm trying to do it out here, you may take the monotony away for a while, but you haven't fixed the foundational problem. And so it will return. Amen and amen. You believe in something when you amen yourself.
That's right.
If nobody else is going to amen me, I'm going to amen myself.
Listen, I amen you to that, honey. Yes.
So today we are going to be talking about situationships, which is a newer word for me. And so when you sent the information over, I started doing my math on this and then we've exchanged some articles and I love it. It's super relevant. All kinds of information surrounding this from therapists about why, what this is, how you move situationships into relationships. I'm really excited about this topic.
Me too. I think you said it's relevant. It's absolutely relevant. I think that the majority of people, as they're dating on these apps, find themselves in a variety of situationships way more often than relationships. And why is that? What are they? How do you know if you're in one? How do you get out of one if you're in one? Pros and cons, tips for the street. We want to unpack it all.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Situationships.
Yes.
Undefined romantic entanglements between two people. Cosmopolitan magazine says it's the catch-all term for those relationships sitting at the intersection of hooking up and an actual relationship.
Okay.
So they're kind of on the edge. They're on the precipice. They could go either way. I think typically we see them going more towards the hooking up zone rather than relationship. Situationship can blossom into more. It's possible. But I think that it is a side effect of people who maybe are struggling in dating, struggling that they deserve more, not sure what they want. There's a lot of reasons why they happen. But I think in defining them, a helpful tool from masterclass.com says 5 signs that you're in one. So how do I even identify this pattern or whether or not I'm in one myself? So first of all, the most prevalent one is number 1, you deal with inconsistent behavior. So you see this boy, you're not really sure when you're going to see him again, when he's going to call again, when you're going to spend time together. It's inconsistent behavior. You are not a priority, and that's part of the deal.
Any person who's not truly interested in a future with you will not make plans with you.
Okay.
They don't want to make plans because Planning is about commitment.
Yes.
Right? And commitment is not always something that somebody that prefers a situationship wants to be in.
You're hitting on number 2 exactly. So number 2 is you don't make any long-term plans.
Oh, okay.
So you're not important enough to do that, for sure.
I don't know if you saw this, but there was a guy that talked about how, although situationships might provide freedom that you just mentioned, but they also can create internal conflict that typically they go against the way humans connect and attach to each other, that there's cognitive dissonance where the actions and beliefs people have towards one another are in constant tension. That was an article in Men's Health.
Yeah. And then number 3 is you don't use labels. So this is not a thing. It's a situationship. We're not boyfriends. I wouldn't even say you're dating. We were, I was introducing someone at a club or whatever. So no labels, no long-term plans. And then a 4, obviously, you haven't made it exclusive, of course.
Right.
But number 5, this is the one that really hits with me. Number 5 is the relationship or the situationship lacks emotional connection. So it's physical or surface level only. And I think if you haven't done your work, you see a lot of people that's all that they have the ability to reach for, depending on where they're at in their journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people probably feel like they're just not capable of that. Like they don't know how to. Like I can talk about sex with you. I can goof around and have a good time, but to be vulnerable is complicated. And they even talking about that in some of the research that I was looking up of people who are trying to save face, frankly, because they would rather have a situationship than a relationship, because then they don't have to deal with the idea of being broken up with.
Yep.
Like we don't like that. We don't like the rejection of that. So if I'm in a situationship, you can't really break up with me. So it ends up becoming about saving face. So because of our social media culture and how it's grown, and we talked about how the stats on having sex has gone down in young people, like they have less sex than they used to, specifically between the years around 2000 and 2017 are what some of the studies are. And that is because on social media with porn, with all of those things just exploding as it has, it doesn't cost vulnerability. You can do all of that stuff on your own, which really kind of begs the question of what has happened to human connection.
I have a dear friend of mine, and we talk about this all the time, and he is only in situationships, and it's by design. But it's because you mentioned this earlier, he doesn't feel like he's capable of more than that. I think there's a lot of internalized homophobia and some self-love issues there, but he finds himself in situationship after situationship. And I talked to him about this because he's a close friend of mine and a really beautiful person. And I'm like, you have to want more than that. Don't you want someone to love you and to hold you at night? He's like, God, no. He goes, I don't know what I would do if someone did that for me. He goes, I need my space.
Immediately, the question comes to me if I was coaching this boy, why?
Why? Exactly. Yeah.
Why don't you want to be held? Is it just go, I'm not a touchy person? Like, let's dig down beneath the surface. Why? What is it about that? I feel uncomfortable. Why?
Yeah.
And I think you can't talk about this stuff without talking about worthiness. It may not be an issue of worthiness for everyone that would prefer situationships, but it has to be talked about. And we'll get there. We'll talk about it today. One of the things that you said about planning, this was on, I think, medium.com, where they talk about situationships. And it says that people that don't want it to turn into a relationship, they are not clear about the future. And then they say, I'm just going to read it. Real relationships take one small and very unsexy skill, planning. Now, I don't think that's unsexy, but I thought it was cute. Relationships take a great deal of planning. Anything you want to do as a couple requires planning. Buying a house, having children, or traveling, even going out for dinner requires some small planning. And then they put it in bold in the middle of the page. But a person who isn't interested in you won't bother to make plans.
So true.
Now, if I were in a situationship and somebody read that to me, it would make me immediately feel shame, because it would make me think, what's wrong with me? That I'm not valued highly enough to make plans with me that you have to keep all your options open.
Yes.
And we've all known that couple before, that you can't ever really get them to commit until Friday afternoon when nobody else will have them. I don't want that.
I think if you're on the receiving end of a situationship, it can be hard on your heart, your mental health, and your self-esteem. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're in a place where you want more than that. So you got to be really careful. And
again, us always coming from the point of view of this is somebody who wants to find and keep a gay man.
Yeah, because there's a lot of articles that said pros and cons. So like pros, you're newly out or newly single and finding your way. You're in a season where you aren't sure what you want, evaluating your options. You're new to a city or part of a country and keeping your options open while you're meeting a lot of new people.
Wonderful.
That all works. And frankly, if I'm in that category, I'm probably going to have a few situationships going on. Okay. There was a time when I was doing that. But when you're ready to find and keep a gay man, we're entering in wanting more. And so we got to be careful if one of these is starting to creep up in this category. Because it's all fine and dandy until you catch feels. And then you endanger, girl. Yeah. Because if it's not reciprocated, you're getting into really dangerous water,
And when you catch the feels, let it play out.
Yeah.
Don't assume that means something's wrong and I got to figure out how to turn off this faucet. It's okay to catch the feels. You might be growing up.
Okay.
It might be time.
You might want to plan to have some spaghetti.
That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing.
That means she's growing up. I love that. And I think that it's really good to play that out if you do catch feels, but you got to be really vigilant on what is reciprocated. Because if they are not, okay, this is a situationship. A lot of times that just means that the relationship itself is still new enough that it's not defined. But you have to step back and say, is it moving forward or not? Because if it's not, then you got to make some tough decisions. Because if you love yourself enough to want to find and keep a gay man and be in a real relationship, you're going to require more than that after a very specific amount of time. And I think, a lot of articles talked about how you might be unaware when you get into that zone, you might be unaware of how much emotional energy it's taking from you. It could deplete your love bank and prevent you from having much to give the right person when they present themselves.
Yes. When I went through my big breakup, we continued on with a situationship. And that happens more than, from researching this, I was like, oh, that happens more than I thought it would, where a relationship actually morphs into a situationship where you're still sexually active with this person. And what that ends up becoming about is one person who doesn't want the relationship, but maybe doesn't know how to let go. And then the other person who's still in love that didn't really want it to be a situationship. But they'll take that over nothing when what they really need to do is honor the path that they've desired, which is finding and keeping someone, which is what I wanted.
Sure.
And finally just say, no, I'm done. I felt like a fool in that position. I couldn't believe I was the age I was with all the knowledge that I knew. But listen, love has its reasons, which the heart knows not of. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought that I had learned these lessons and I knew them in my head, but that's different than experiencing them with your heart. And so I was doing everything I could to hold on to something that had become a situationship, though I would have never called it. That's exactly what it was. And I had to let it go. And begin the painful process of healing.
Well, and that situationship became a distraction for you to even be able to give your energy to someone else, right?
Yes, 100%. Yes. Until I was able to let that go, I was not able to engage someone, or even you and I sat with the Tinder thing. And a lot of what was keeping me stuck was still being in love in this situationship. So every person that came across my screen, I didn't care about any of them.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to try anything else. And I needed to desperately.
Kind of connected to this, you mentioned this earlier, that situationship feels safe because it doesn't require a lot of you. A real invested relationship, talk about things that are unsexy, they require planning, but they also reveal areas within you that you need to work on, areas that you need growth in. And so when you're in a situationship, it doesn't require anything from you. And it's the longer that you spend in these types of patterns relationally, the longer it takes for you to really understand the improvements you need to make to find and keep a gay man and be a really good partner in a relationship, to challenge you to reach for that for the right person.
There's something about this that just feels like it's the Peter Pan syndrome. Like you just don't want to grow up.
I think that's a huge part of it.
I don't want responsibility outside of my job. I don't want anybody to paint me in a corner. I don't want anybody to wake me up in the morning and have to do the same old life with that same old man, the same old way over and over again, when in reality, if we let it, if we put our back into it, it can actually reveal itself to become something really, really beautiful, really meaningful.
Yeah. I think we don't have vision for what that could be sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, and you mentioned this earlier as well, I mean, bringing it back to that comes back to self-love, not to repeat messages that we have repeated over and over again, but you really do have to love yourself enough to require more than that. And I think that a lot of people are so stuck that they can't get there yet. My dear friend I mentioned earlier is definitely in that bucket. And I will work with him as long as I can to encourage him to believe that he deserves more and to reach for it.
And sometimes what keeps us stuck in that pattern of situationship is not somebody's desire to stay there. It's because they don't feel like outside of this person, there's not a lot of options.
Mm-hmm.
So we even have to look at, you and I have talked about this many times, like how specific, and by specific, I mean petty, are you being with what it is that you're looking for? Like, I want somebody with full head of hair. I want somebody who makes this much money, or
at least 6 foot tall.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you can let go of that stuff. I recently had a conversation with somebody who was talking about identifying as top or bottom or all of the sexual things in their dating profile. And I said, no, honey, you don't have to put all that in there. It was like, well, it's good to know. I was like, well, it might be good for you to know when you see their profile coming up, but here's what I can tell you. On paper, that would not have worked for the marriage that I am happily involved in today.
Yeah.
Had he put on his profile where he was with that and me, we would not have mixed. And I'm over here in a relationship where I'm completely sexually at peace beyond what I ever thought I could be. Very happy. But like I said, had that stuff been on the profile, I'd have scrolled right past something. So just cool it a little bit with all of the wants and needs and thinking you're trying to make something perfect, and you've just perfected everyone right out of your circle. So now you got two options and they're both assholes.
Well, and the reverse of that, I've got another example of a guy that we met who is in a situationship, and this man is his ideal. He's gobsmacked over this boy, but they are only in a situationship, and that's all that they will ever be. The guy calls him when he has time. He travels a lot for work, and our friend just comes running. And I'm like, don't you feel a little bit less than at his beck and call? And he goes, honey, I don't care. And it's the best that I can get. He goes, I would never be able to be with a boy as beautiful as that.
Beautiful.
And so,
who cares?
Yeah. And we're like, oh, he's beautiful.
Now,
not on the
is.
He's beautiful now. And today he's not beautiful on the inside. He is so caught up in the fact that he is that ideal physically that he just degrades himself.
Yeah.
He takes the scraps that this boy throws in.
This is an issue of worthiness. Am I worthy of a meaningful love experience? And if I don't love myself, then I'm certainly not going to think that I'm worthy of it. And worth is not ego. Worth is not walking around like, I would not take that from anybody. That's puffed up ego. We're talking about really getting in tune with yourself and realizing as a human being, you came into this world and you deserve to love, and you are worthy of it 100%. And the thing is, when you let go of that shit that you just mentioned, this boy's beautiful, but unavailable, except when he decides he's available. You let go of that stuff, then you open yourself to a person out there that also believes that you're worthy.
I mean, you said in one of the past podcasts that lack attracts lack. If you're in a place where you don't really believe that, you're going to attract people who agree. We have to reach for that self-love and heal ourselves so we can be open to the right person that will love us back deeply.
It's almost like learn to love me, and then I can let you love me.
It's exactly what it is. Yeah. Situationships should only be training wheels for a relationship or a transitional phase in your life. Beyond that, your heart wants more.
Yeah. Before we get into that place of self-worth, because we are going to talk more about that, I think that's just a continued theme through this podcast. But
for sure,
communication is a huge thing of just being able to say what it is that you want. And we're afraid because we're afraid we might lose it. And it's not always just about being afraid we're going to lose it. Sometimes we're just afraid because we're not confrontational. I am not a confrontational person. I told you one of the best compliments I've ever gotten is somebody telling me that I set boundaries with ease. But you have to figure out, I think it's Brene Brown that says, tell the truth even if your voice shakes.
For sure.
So you've got to step up to the plate and say what it is that you need to say. And don't start with what are we? Tell them this is what I want us to be. Don't let them define it. You tell them this is what I want it to be. This is what I need for it to be. Are you willing to take this journey with me?
Absolutely. Well, that same masterclass material had, if I do identify that I'm in a situationship, how do I get out of it? Now, getting out of it might not necessarily mean that it ends. It can graduate into a real relationship. But what does that process look like? And I think this is really important. You have to honestly, keyword honest, evaluate the situation that you're in. Okay. Is this a reciprocal relationship? Does it potentially have legs? If it's new, and that's the reason that it's a situationship, is it moving forward? Yes or no? This boy that I just mentioned is not honest with himself about what the situation really is. So first of all, you got to get really honest about that. And then you just said it, decide what it is that you want, believe that you deserve it and can have it, and then communicate with the other person what it is that you want. So I love that you just said, don't tell them, what are we? Say, hey boy, I really like you. I want this to be more than it is. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Be strong enough to say what you want. And that's very sexy. Communicate what it is that you want, even if you're going first. And you, like you said, if you're saying it in fear with your voice shaking, go there. If you want it, go after it. Believe that you deserve it. And then number 5 said, move forward and talk with a relationship expert about how to do that. Get a damn therapist.
That's good. Yeah. So let's close that thought out by saying the first thing that needs to happen is define whether or not you want it to be a situationship or you want it to evolve into a relationship. That's a great decision to make. And then the information is out there or a therapist is available to begin the process of talking about how to make that happen. And I think the number one thing is communication. Say the damn thing. And it doesn't have to be mean. It can be like, I love spending time with you. I love what we have. And I'm ready to move deeper. You could even start with that and saying, so let me know. You don't even have to ask them for an answer. Let me know what you think about that. Take some time, give it some thought. But I'm letting you know I'm ready to move forward with you.
And Matt, I love that because for people that are super direct like me, I'd be able to talk about it right then. There's a lot of people that are processors. And they might be surprised that you drop that on them. They might be on the same page, but need time to think about it. You know, it's an intense, vulnerable thing to move forward in a relationship, especially an exclusive one with someone. And it's a big decision. So I love that you offer the opportunity to think about it and let you know. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And a great response to that is, let me get back with you on that. I love that because it tells me you're going to go think about it rather than expecting them to just say, yes, I want to get married. I thought you'd never ask, give them a minute because they may not be in that same space as you were. And they may just need some time to think about it.
And if they say, oh, geez, I thought you knew what this was, keep it moving. Clarity will free you up to move in a direction where you can find someone that is open to more. So,
good. Can we talk about worthiness?
Worthiness.
When I think about worthiness, I think about some people who are just so beat down. Self-worth is a definite part of my story. And I think probably most men, but we experience it differently, right? As gay men, some of us puff up with ego.
Some of us flip the fan and strut. It's a smoke screen.
And I guess, Matt, we all want to love and to be loved. I really believe that there is a kid inside us that wants to be loved. And then we grow up into men and we've been so beaten down in our communities and by people when we were the young gay boy in gym class or hiding, falling in love with best friends that never could love us back because they were straight and we were gay. All that stuff that we still carry around in us. And so the vulnerability of requiring or expecting or asking for love, it requires a great amount of courage and it requires a great amount of self-acceptance and self-love.
Foundational, for sure.
How do we get there?
Get a damn therapist.
I knew you were going to say that. 100%. I was like, he's going to say, get a damn therapist.
And we have talked about in previous episodes about developing a dialogue of self-love. Mm-hmm. At this point in my journey, I've been through so much therapy, but the work is never done. So for me, the practice that I really hold pretty sacred now is that dialogue of self-love. We just went through this wedding. We had a lot of family drama in the midst of that. There were people that weren't there that it really disappointed me. Mm-hmm. And so I've had to really be intentional to keep myself in good mental space. I am worthy of love. I deserve Ty. He's lucky to have me. I'm aging, but I'm still beautiful. I'm a person of worth. And I have these mantras that I repeat in my head when I'm feeling rough or when I have a quiet moment in the morning. Like now it's almost reflexive. And I tell you what, I read something that said your subconscious mind doesn't know if you're serious or not. So that's why if you say I'm stupid or I'm ugly or I'm fat, your subconscious mind will believe you. So the same is true of positive messaging. You say that you're a person of worth, you speak it into existence, and you begin to believe it. I think that is something that we all, especially as gay men over 30 that have been through some shit, as we say, you've got to have that as a practice in moving forward in the self-love piece.
I remember when I was going through my divorce, and I had a shit ton of like conservative Christian people who were being pretty nasty as I was coming out. And I remember seeing this patch. I was at Walgreens or something like that. And there was just one of those old iron-on patches you put on the knees of your pants, or whatever.
Yeah.
And it said, I'm doing my best. That's what the patch said. I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
And I took that patch and I ironed it onto the back of my favorite jean jacket and wore it around. And I liked that it was on the back of my jacket because I kept thinking this was sort of a metaphor for me. All of those people back there saying all of those things, all they do is have to look at me and see that message that I'm wearing for myself. I'm doing my best. I don't have everything worked out and I don't have to.
Yes.
But here's what I can tell you about me every day, or if you look at the trajectory of my life and the line through, it is on an
upward tip for sure. Love that.
It is. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to understand more. I'm trying to love people better. I'm trying to love myself, right? I'm trying to be more honest. I'm trying. There's no reason for me to not be gentle with myself because I don't have it all figured out. And when I can get into that space and know that I'm trying, there's a part of me that just feels like I deserve every good thing that comes to me. I'm not one of those people that's going to sit back and be like, bitch, bring it to me. I deserve it. It's not that, but I deserve the good things that happen to me because I really am trying to add to this life. I'm just doing my best. Over here doing my best.
Over here doing my best. Love that.
If good things come to me, let it be. I'm going to snatch those things up and I'm going to say, thank you to whoever is responsible for this goodness. Thank you. I accept.
I accept because every day you are learning to understand more and more that you are worthy of them. I love that.
Yeah. And we are here to find and keep a gay man. That's the point of all of this. So that's where that comes into play is when you look at all those people, all these hookups and all of the situationships, you have to look at that through that lens of this is not only what I want, it's what I'm worthy of. So I'm going to find somebody who treats me like that.
Someone who agrees with you.
Yes. Make that clear because I love that.
Well, as we said in previous episodes, lack attracts lack and love attracts love. So if you believe that you're worthy of love, you really do believe that in your heart, you will find someone that agrees with you, someone that's on the same page as wanting to find and keep a gay man. And that's when magic happens, doesn't it, darling? That's what we found.
Yeah, I feel like we're ready for prayer time.
I think we are. Please. I can't wait. It's my favorite part.
I am so glad I have a prayer time for this one.
All right, Reverend Silky, lay it on us.
This prayer time is called Worthy.
Worthy.
Your inherent worth was imprinted on your gay heart the day you came into this beautifully chaotic world. And love, she was already here. Love was waiting, always waiting, is waiting still for you. We must continue to stumble toward her, to scrape our knees and hands if necessary. I spent my life caring for others more than myself. I defined what it means to be codependent. I was the 3 a.m. friend, boyfriend, even when it wasn't healthy or helpful. This is how I defined my worth. Deep down, I believed I deserved good things based solely on output. For too damn long, I've used my love or perceived love to control outcomes, to rescue whoever I was with. But a man who is worthy of you isn't going to need a rescue. He is a healthy, whole, and independent human being. He won't need you. Instead, he will want you.
Ooh, yes.
Isn't that the way it should be?
Amen.
But this kind of relational equity without codependence as the foundation requires change. It's a beautiful opportunity to discover your value and worth, not in what you can do for others, but in yourself, simply because you are you. You need to believe deep in your bones that you are enough. You won't have the love story you desire without believing that you are worthy. Period. Full stop. And all the children said,
Amen, amen.
and amen and amen.
Thank you.
I do love a good prayer time, don't you?
I do. I think the children are waiting for it now. We got to keep doing it.
I think I'm going to start posting these on Sundays because I know a bunch of these boys aren't going to church.
The elders of Bedside Baptist, honey.
Yes, exactly. And they need some forgiveness for all the tricks they played the night before.
Ooh, okay.
No.
Honey, it's been a pleasure as always. And until next time, live in rivers of self-love.
Living.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's it for us today. For more bitchy wisdom, follow How to Find and Keep a Gay Man on Instagram and TikTok at, you guessed it, How to Find and Keep a Gay Man. And until we meet again, get a therapist, don't be an asshole, protect yourself, call your mom, and remember that you deserve a meaningful love. Bye.